Hello, today's Thanksgiving Day. Should I be thanking right now for my video? I mean, it'd be on topic, but I don't really have much to say. And since it's Thanksgiving, I'm a pretty busy guy hanging out with the fam. So I figured if I just talk really fast for 5 minutes flat, then I'll be able to have the same amount of substance in my wordage as I would for a 15-minute video about giving thanks. But am I even going to talk about giving thanks today? I don't even know. I'll consider it. I'll think about it. I'll scratch my chinny chin chin. But talking about what you're thankful for is a good activity and maybe even a good habit to build if you were looking to maybe think about more often things that you are grateful for and having a moment of gratitude, as consistently doing that will allow you to see things in a new light where you are feeling so lucky for what you have, whilst not going down the drain of spiraling into brain explosion, non-existent, personhood dissociating. And so if I just continue with this manner of speaking, perhaps I can consistently carve good words and maybe use a little alliteration because I like saying silly things at certain times. And non-stop speakage, I'm sure, can be very notable to people because it's kind of like, a brain spewage, or as my coach once put it, diarrhea of the mouth, that some people are symptomatic of, having because they just can't stop talking. And really, it was for this one guy on the team who just would not stop talking, and none of it was that good. And so if you are consistently, trying to speak your truth, son, then you'll never, actually get it out there. Because there's little things, whenever you speak little, you say a lot, right? And so whenever you're just blah, 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 then people probably aren't going to listen. You have to grab the attention of your viewers. And I really like doing this motion because it really captures what I'm trying to say, you see. Man, this is difficult, and I'm only halfway through. How is someone supposed to do this? People who go up in church and do their little sermon of speaking the words of God. And I mean, if you're just talking about God and stuff, then you already kind of know what you're talking about. So you have one check done. The second one is kind of having a meaning to what you're talking about, which is religion, which boom, second step done. But I guess people who give sermons don't typically speak at this rate. But who are people who consistently speak at this rate? Perhaps people who are trying to debate. Ooh, that's a bar. And so whenever you are debating, which is not something people are really doing anymore nowadays, because there's really no purpose to it. There's no reason to be debating. There's such an information overload that people have no reason to debate over anything, because that's really just trying to change the other person's mind whenever their perspective is already so different because of every single little bit of information that we get from these many different sources is all different. So nobody has the same foundations to debate anything. And so we're left with a bunch of people who are trying to talk their shiz, but they have no shiz to speak of because they can't connect with any other people's shiz. You see what I'm trying to say here? So whenever you're constantly speaking and debating, whenever you go on your oh, this is the perfect plan to deconstruct their argument, and there's no way that they can possibly try and rebuttal what I'm saying. But of course they can, because they can just change whatever pieces of information are in their head and then come up with a recourse for that of yes, you are wrong for these reasons, and then you can instantly go back and say, no, you are wrong for these reasons. And you're just telling each other that you're wrong. You're not trying to find any sort of compromise in the middle. And so without any form of compromise to be looking for, then you're just left with talking to a brick wall. It's a conversational dead note. You're not doing anything. And so people who constantly try and speak their truth at this speed really have nothing of substance to say, unfortunately, unless you're trying to find common ground. But oftentimes, whenever people are speaking at this rate, it's because they're trying to talk over the other person, which makes sense, because how are you going to get a word in if all I'm ever doing is wording it up? And there's no form of trying to spark a moment of cooperation. And if there's no cooperation, then you can't get anywhere, because people are all about cooperation, right? But whenever you're always fighting, and you're aggressive and you're doing all these things and you're combative, you're battling, you're trying to win, you're not trying to find the best outcome. And so you're left with nothing. Anyways, toodles.